Hey everybody, and welcome back to Across the Grooves. We're here in Arthur and David's kitchen, getting some breakfast maybe. I enter the kitchen shyly. David is reading the newspaper as Arthur prepares scrambled eggs. The radio, probably tuned to the BBC, delivers the morning news report. It's he who notices my presence on the doorstep. Oh, good morning, Alice. Did you sleep well? Obviously, with all my adventures of the previous day, my night has been a little disturbed. But does Arthur really need to know that fact? You know what? He's been pretty straight up with me. Let's be pretty straight with him. Look, pretty disturbing night, to be honest with you. I have to admit that after all my adventures, my night was a bit disturbed. I understand there's a lot of new information to take in. I sense that Arthur would like to say more, but after a glance in David's direction, he chooses caution. Do you like English breakfasts? Do take a seat, please. I obey and sit down. David puts down his paper and picks up the coffee pot. Coffee? I hold out the mug in front of me. Yes, please. I've hardly had time to take a mouthful of the delicious, rejuvenating nectar when Arthur places a plate of scrambled eggs, sausages, and baked beans before me, to which he adds 2 slices of toast, straight from the toaster. We eat in silence. David sips his coffee. Arthur seems engrossed by the radio. I finish my plate quickly, pour myself another cup of coffee, and use the quiet to try to assemble my thoughts into better order. The first startling information is, it would seem that Ulysse never reached Boleskine. I really should have looked up how you pronounce that name. Even if I didn't have the chance to ask him about it directly, I think that Arthur would have mentioned the visit of another person with questions about the record. I imagine that what happened was that after traveling to Glasgow, Ulysse probably backtracked to Paris, where he decided to send that record to me. I can only think of 2 reasons why he would have decided to give up his journey to Boleskine. Either he judged that his visit would be too dangerous. I suppose that he was also being followed by Eva and the members of her lodge, the Ion Kairos. Realizing that the noose was tightening, perhaps he preferred to muddle the trails by changing his route and by getting rid of that record as fast as possible. The other option is that for him, too, the trail to Arthur stopped in Glasgow. After all, I was only able to discover the address of Pullman's new home by returning to the past. It's possible that he hadn't remembered that the sale of Boleskine had taken place, and that the person he was seeking was the one who had bought the property. So he would have returned to Paris to seek out a new lead, and the Ion Kairos, don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly either, must have caught up with him there. He sent the record to me rather than let Eva get her hands on it, which makes me even more mad at the idea that it's my fault that Eva was finally able to achieve her purpose. As for me, I find myself stuck in this new present, in this new life that I know nothing about. Does Alan still know me in this new reality? How about Beth and Garrett? If one thing's for sure, it's that there's no way this new Alice leads a tidy little life in Bordeaux. It all seems so far away, although only a few days have passed. Arthur's voice drags me from my reflections. I'm going to pick up the post at the letterbox. If you'd like to come with me, Alice, it would be company for me, and it would give us the chance to finish our conversation. David's going up to Inverness to do some shopping this morning. He'll drop you off at the station. My hosts are most certainly perfect. Not knowing how to express my gratitude, I content myself with saying, thank you. I pick up my plate and mug. David gestures me to leave them in the sink. Then, after returning to my room to grab my coat, I join Arthur in the entrance hall. We go out. Outside, the weather is cold and dreary. The green highland landscape is enveloped in an early morning mist, which hasn't yet lifted. Arthur hands me a piece of paper. This is the address of the lodge, in Prague. Now that Eva has the record, I think I can confirm that she'll take it back there. I'd like to do more to help you, but it's been 15 years since I severed my ties with that part of my life. You've already helped enormously, or it's better than nothing. No, thank you very much. Done a great service already. I don't know how I can ever thank you for your hospitality, for all the information you've given me, and about the record. Or information about the record, probably is what that should have said. Oh, there's no need to thank me. As I told you, I do feel rather responsible for what's happened to you. Pullman points to the lane which winds away from the house. The post box is at the end of the lane, near the road. We start walking. I mean, of course the post box... I mean, I guess the mailman could have delivered it to a, box on your front wall near your front door, but then he wouldn't really have needed to come up with his whole excuse. Like, I need to go out and walk around for a while to get something that's 3 steps from the door. We start walking. So, do you know what you're going to do? What I'm going to do? Yes, when you leave here, this place whose name I don't know how to pronounce. I don't suppose it will be too difficult to find a flight from London to Prague. It's true that I haven't really considered the question. On one hand, Arthur is encouraging me quite insistently to try to get the record back. On the other hand, why should I really do it? I don't have much information about this new reality, except for the few clues I've been able to glean from my belongings. I could go home to Bordeaux. Wow, I really messed that up. Bordeaux takes some time before making any decisions. I could also stop in London, drop in on Alan. But screw Alan. Even if I don't know if we still exist, or still know each other in this new reality. And then there's Ulysse. If he never came to Boleskine, where could he be? I think back to our encounter just yesterday for me, 3 years ago for him. What did he mean by we don't need to break up anymore? It would be so much simpler if I could just find him. No matter what, I'm not going to charge straight ahead to Prague. Not before I learn a little bit about my new life. Stop in London? No, we're not going back to Alan. I don't care about Alan, okay? Go back to Bordeaux. I think I'll start by going home, to Bordeaux. After all these adventures, I need to know who I am in this new reality. I understand. I hope you'll find the answers to your questions. But don't lose sight of the fact that, how should I put it, you're still you, deep down. I don't believe that the choices we make change us in our deepest essence, if you see what I mean. I'm not sure. I mean, no, you're probably right. Sure. Yes, you're probably right. I don't believe changing the past is the solution to my problems. Can I go back? I want to change that answer. I do think that changing the past will fix all my problems and get me back together with Ulysse. Can we undo what I just said, please? Pretty please? I prefer to look forward. In any case, thanks again for this address in Prague and for everything else. Arthur just smiles at me. This time, we reach the mailbox. He opens it, sees that it's empty, and we head back to the house. David is waiting for us at the door. It would be a good idea if we don't hang about too long. I'd like to be back for lunch. And anyway, the earlier we get going, the less difficulty you'll have finding a train, Alice. I nod. I just need a minute to get my things, and I'm ready to go. Do they have a lot of pickup trucks in Scotland? Maybe. A few minutes later, I climb into David's old 4x4. Then we leave that house, heading for Inverness, then London, and then Bordeaux. Chapter 5. Oh boy. I do not know what that says. So I'm not even going to try to pronounce this Greek or whatever this is. Maybe that's that Kairos whatever. I think probably it is. I just can't remember what it's called. When the night train finally stops at Gare Saint-Jean, and I go up the platform to emerge into the gloom of Bordeaux at the turn of the year, I am overwhelmed by an odd sense of relief. Perhaps it's what they call homesickness. Even if I've only been away from Bordeaux for a few days, it feels as though an age has passed since I began the adventure which took me to Paris and onward to the primeval lands of northern Scotland. Out of habit, I jump on a tram Then my steps take me to my apartment at the Saint-Pierre district. Is that really even still your apartment, though? It's only when I go through my bag and pull out a bunch of keys, which in no way resemble my usual house keys, that I realize that I probably don't live in the same place in this reality. And for that matter, perhaps I don't even live in Bordeaux at all. I check the time. It's past noon. My brother doesn't usually pick up at this time of the day. When he's not lunching with customers, he tends to leave his telephone on his desk in his office. I tap in Marie's number as I walk around a little bistro where I like to eat. She's both surprised and delighted to hear from me and assures me that I can sleep at their place this evening, no problem at all. I eat a quick salad followed by a double espresso to fight the fatigue from the night journey in the sleeper car before I head towards Saint-Michel. I consider passing by the apartment that I shared with Ulysse in case he still lives there in this reality, before deciding that it would probably be much more productive to go straight to see Mark at the store. But when I find myself before the storefront, I'm surprised to find not a record store, but a florist. I check several times that I have the right address, looking at the surroundings, then backing into the road to compare the position of the building with my memory. There's no possible doubt. In this reality, it would seem that Mark's store simply doesn't exist. I go inside to inquire, and the young woman at the cash desk confirms that there was a record store here in the old days, but it's been 2 or 3 years since her boss took over the lease. However, she's unable to tell me what became of the previous occupant, nor give me his new address. With nothing to add, I leave dazed, rather worried. Maybe my brother and sister-in-law will be able to tell me more. Have I been confused? Like, I thought that was her sister and her sister's husband, or not husband, before, but it was our brother and his girlfriend? I've been a little confused about the relationship there, unless the game is confused. I send a short message to Marie to suggest that we meet in our usual brasserie. She answers that it would be easier if I come straight over to their place at the end of the afternoon. Yeah, but you see, I don't know where you live exactly. I decide to go for a walk around town while I wait. When I ring the bell at their home, she has just arrived. Hello, Alice. What a nice surprise to get your message. It's been ages since we saw you. I hug Marie and follow her into the living room. Take a peek into the crib without disturbing my little niece, who is fast asleep. I told Robin you're here. He's delighted that you called us. He's stopping to pick up a few things on the way home from work, and we'll eat at home if that's okay with you. We both have a big day tomorrow. Yes, of course, it's all fine with me. I'm sorry to have let you know so late. Can I get you a drink? With pleasure. Marie makes me a gin and tonic and opens a beer for herself. Then we sit down in the living room. So how's London life? I live in London now. Are you still working in your record store? It requires a considerable effort from me to conceal my surprise at all the information that Marie has just landed on me about my new life. As I suspected, I no longer work in banking, and it would seem that I now live in London. Yes, it's all fine. Same old, same old. Marie laughs. Same old thing for you. As far as I can see, your life's so rock and roll that there's nothing old about it. What brings you to Bordeaux? This is the moment to ask about Ulysse, but I need to approach it with finesse. I have no idea how to explain to Marie that my memories of the past 3 years have got nothing to do with what's happened in this reality. Do you remember Ulysse? Marie's face suddenly clouds over. Of course I remember Ulysse, but I'm amazed that you want to talk about him. I know you were really hit by his death, but it's a subject you usually want to avoid. Oh, he died. We gotta get that record now. We gotta go back in time and save Ulysse. That's the only way about this. All of a sudden it says, if the world was collapsing around me, is death? Come on, Alice, you didn't need to do this. Now you've spilled the beans. Marie looks at me with concern. I struggle to keep my composure. Ulysse is dead in this reality? It must be because of the record. Because of me. Not knowing what to do in the face of my reaction, Marie grips my hand with affection and reminds me of the circumstances of his death, whilst carefully avoiding my gaze. Yes, he was knocked down by a car, about, 3 years ago? Ah, it was after that I must have moved to London. Are you sure you're alright? No, I mean, yes, sorry. It's just that it's all still very fresh, very vivid for me. Marie looks more and more concerned. I hope it's not that sect thing again. You scared us pretty badly with that at the time. It took you months to accept that the accident was really an accident. Ah, so wait a minute. The me from this timeline believed that Eva killed him? Change the subject. Make something up. Let's just change the subject, please. Let's talk about something else. I shouldn't have brought it up. Really, I promise. You don't need to worry about me. Are you sure? Absolutely. Honestly, I didn't mean to scare you. Marie looks vaguely relieved. But how about you? Tell me about your life in Bordeaux. How's life as a young mother? We chat for a while about this and that. Hello, Robin? Robin arrives, his arms full of shopping, just after Marie has poured us a second drink. He's thrilled to see me. From his point of view, it's been months since we last saw each other. A weekend at their place not long after their daughter was born. I offer to help him in the kitchen, but he insists that I keep Marie company. He shuts himself away in the kitchen whilst Marie and I continue gossiping. I try not to close or lose the thread of our conversation, but in a corner of my mind, I'm trying to join the dots about what happened to Ulysse. I think back to what we said last time I listened to the record. I guess that in this reality, Ulysse didn't leave for Paris. And because he stayed in Bordeaux, Eva, or the members of the Ion Kairos, that's their name, were able to steal the record from him, and it cost him his life. Robin tells us that dinner is ready. I help Maurice to set the table. Then we eat the delicious risotto that Robin has prepared with a glass of white wine. I try to enjoy the moment, even if my thoughts are dragging me into the future and all its uncertainties. Ulysse is dead in this reality because of me. I realize that I can't accept this information, not while I have the possibility to find him again. Not while I have the possibility to put things right, to erase this reality, this fake world. No matter the cost of that success, I don't have any choice. I've taken my decision. I need the record, and I need to find a way to pry it out of Eva's hands. Arthur Pullman gave me the address of the lodge in Prague. The next day, first thing, I take a plane. Direction, Prague. It's already late when the bus from the airport drops me in Andel. The first flight I was able to find left in the early afternoon, with the time for check-in and all the security checks. When you add an hour of travel by public transport to get to the center, the winter sun had almost set when I start walking down the long avenue along the side of Petrin Park. Snowflakes begin to spin gently down as I turn into a street on the right to enter the heart of Malastrana, the lesser town, which faces the old town across the river. The Lorenz Mansion is a great 19th century edifice with a classically inspired colonnaded facade. On the frontispiece, embossed in gold, Greek letters spell out the words. That's got to be the Iron Kairos or whatever we said. I have two options. I could try the direct approach, ask to talk to Eva and try to convince her to let me listen to the record. Or I could try to get into the building and hope to find the record and a record player before the occupants detect my presence. In both cases, my chance of success look pretty slim. Look, I'm not gonna go in and just, hey Eva, would you like me to let me listen to the record? I'd like to undo all the changes you've made, please? No, we're sneaking in. I decide to opt for stealth. Can't see myself getting what I want by pushing the door open and requesting it from Eva. Especially since I have nothing to negotiate with in return. I linger on the sidewalk opposite in the cold, trying to figure out the best approach. Well, that's suspicious as all get out. Some lady just with her hood up standing across the street. That's never gonna look suspicious. Obviously, with the winter weather, none of the ground floor windows have been left open. I notice there's a small door on the other side of the building, and that some solitary individuals seem to use it occasionally. Seizing my courage, I wait a few moments after the last person has gone in before pushing open the door. It leads to a small entrance hall with a doorbell. I ring, then go into a second long room with a counter on the right for a cloakroom. You ring the doorbell? A man in a uniform suit greets me in English, tinged with a slight Czech accent, and asks me to leave my belongings with him. I hand over my bag and coat. In exchange, he holds out a numbered token in what seems to be a large piece of shiny black fabric, impeccably folded, with a plain white Colombina mask placed on top of it. This evening promises to be rather Kubrickian. Like the film director, Stanley Kubrick? If that's his first name, I don't remember. As I suspected, the fabric turns out to be a large cape, which I slip on before donning the mask. Oh yeah, this is definitely a cult. The next room is a large salon, the walls hung with black and dressed with woodwork and molding. About 30 people, dressed in what seem to be ritual garments, are gathered in small groups holding glasses of champagne. Most of them wear black capes, like the one I've been given, but I also notice one person with a red cape, and 2 others with purple capes and silver masks, probably to distinguish their ranks within the organization. There's one person who seems alone in a corner of the room. I could use her isolation to try to glean some information from her. No, like, if we start a conversation, I mean, they'll know that I don't know what this whole cult is about. All they have to start to do is talk to me and realize that I don't know their jargon or the ins and outs of how this whole thing works. So no, I'm not going to expose myself. I'm going to stay in the background, please. I decide to stay in the background. I prefer not to take the risk of being discovered by getting into conversation. I take a glass of champagne as a waiter passes me. Then I slip away to a corner of the room, waiting to see what will happen next. I've got no idea where the record is being kept, but it would seem that I've happened upon the evening when it's presented with great pomp to the lodge members, which gives me the perfect opportunity to try to get it back. I try to eavesdrop on the conversations around me. The group next to me are speaking in reasonably fluent English, and I think I can make out different accents, which leads me to believe that the lodge members have come from all over the world for this occasion. It would seem that Eva has called an extraordinary council. Extraordinary council for some reason, which my companions at the soiree aren't aware of. I'm immersed in listening discreetly when I feel a hand on my shoulder. Who's touching me? I turn. A man, his costume now removed, looms over me. He speaks in a calm but firm voice, his English tinged by East European accent. If you would follow me, Alice, Jacob. I don't know who you are, Jacob, but I don't think this is good that you know who I am. Oops, my discreet approach has failed. I take a moment to weigh up my options. I've got no plan B. I don't think kicking up a fuss will help me here. The man appears to understand what's going through my head because he adds, "Don't be a fool, Alice." I let out a sigh. Fine. I allow him to escort me upstairs. As soon as we're out of sight of the other lodge members, he catches hold of my cape and pulls it off roughly. "Your mask, please." I obey. We take one corridor, then another, before entering a large office. Maybe, here's an idea, Alice. Maybe we should have colored our hair, or, did something, put on some fake glasses or something to maybe not be Alice. Eva sits at the other side of the room, writing on a sheet of paper. The record is next to her, on the desk. She stops writing. "Ah, thank you, Jakob. I don't know what you hope to accomplish, Alice, but we spotted you while you were contemplating how to enter the building." I told you just standing on the corner in front of the building, just staring at the place was too suspicious. Be ironic. Stay quiet. You know what? Let's be ironic about this. You should have come straight out and got me. It would have saved me from waiting in the cold. Eva smiles. I was curious to see what you were going to do. To be perfectly frank, I've been expecting your visit. You've given us quite a hard time, you and your friend. What was his name? Ulyss. I turn to look at Jakob. Stands behind me. He looks away. Yes, that's it, Ulyss. Tell me, Alice, how did you find out that the headquarters of the lodge were in Prague? We generally manage to be inconspicuous, but it would seem that nothing stops you. I'm not gonna rat out Arthur Pullman, even though you probably already know. None of your dang business. I didn't come to tell you about the schemes I've had to use to find you. Very well. In that case, let's get to the point. I don't know how familiar you are with the technicalities of our Brotherhood's mysteries. I'm going to try to explain them simply and precisely to you. As you can imagine, I'm a very busy woman. You haven't chosen the best day to grace us with your presence. It's been brought to my attention that one of our brothers, Jakob Novak here, is responsible for the accident, which cost your partner his life in the last emanation. I suppose that your presence here, as well as your renewed determination to steal the Koros from us, is very likely linked to his tragic death. Is it not? Get angry? Stay silent. Let's just stay silent. I choke back an answer, choosing to stay silent and let Eva reveal her intentions. She lets out a sigh. Very well. I can see right through you, Alice. You're as transparent as water. But, after all, if you wish to stay silent, you'll save us both some time, so I thank you. I have a proposition for you, Alice. You are a resourceful young woman. You've managed to thwart our plans and escape us several times. You've already heard the Koros, which makes you de facto an honorary Grand Mistress in our organization. Join us. We'd be honored to count you as one of us. Wait. After all the enmity between us, after pursuing Ulyss for years, you're actually suggesting that I join your organization? To be honest, most of all, I'm thinking of your capacity for causing trouble. Of course, if you accept, you will have access to the Koros as much as the other members who have reached the rank of master within the lodge. And if I refuse? If you refuse, then I will ask Jakob to escort you to the door, and I'm afraid we shall have to put up with your troublemaking capacities. I can feel Jakob become restless behind me. It would appear that Eva's attitude is making him uncomfortable. I take a minute to weigh up the pros and cons. Eva seems very sure of herself. She has the record and believes herself to be in control here. She doesn't appear to be aware of the danger she faces by letting me listen to the record again. But Pullman told me I could completely change the destiny of all the people in this room and give myself the best chance of Ulyss becoming once more alive. By doing that, I know there's a strong possibility that I'll find myself in a completely different reality from everything I'm familiar with. But that's a risk I'm willing to take. On the other hand, I could, of course, pretend to accept, but I mustn't seem too enthusiastic about it if I don't want to alert her suspicion. On the other, I could also try to negotiate by promising to stop annoying them if she lets me listen to the record one last time. And I think that in her desire to be generous, maybe she'll accept my proposition, even if it's just to clear her conscience and that of the lodge. Eva waits patiently for my answer. Let's look at this again. So, on the one hand, I could pretend to accept. I want to listen to the record. I could pretend to accept and join your freaky cult. Or I can say, hey, just let me listen to it one time, and then I'll leave you alone. You know what? I don't want to join your freaky deaky cult. I do want Ulyss to come back, but I don't want to get stuck in your dang cult, so I will refuse, please. I'm sorry, I have no intention of joining your ranks. A shadow of anger sweeps across Eva's face. I have a counter proposal for you, however. Let me listen to the record, today, one last time, and I promise to leave you in peace. Eva glances at Jakob, who stands still behind me, and her expression changes from anger to doubt. As I'd hoped, the presence in the room of a member of the organization who feels responsible for the situation seems to play in my favor. I remain quiet, hoping that she'll take the bait, which she finally does. Do I truly have your word that you won't try to contact the lodge again or try to steal the Koros from us if I let you hear it this evening? You have my word, truly. I don't know about that. She allows herself some thinking time. All I wish for the lodge is that it should have more peaceful ownership of the Koros, or it should have peaceful ownership of the Koros once more. But in my role as sovereign protector of Ion Kairos, I cannot go against the principles of our brotherhood. I know that Mr. Novak has been strongly affected by the accident which cost your friend his life. In order to ease his conscience, and for this reason alone, I am prepared to accept that you listen to the record one last time. In turn, I ask you to give me your word that I will never hear from you again after this evening. Eva holds out her hand across the desk. I shake it. I am so pleased that we could reach a mutual agreement. The lodge has detested violence since it began, as perhaps you know. He looks up at Jakob, who still stands behind me. I turn to him. Alice, I am truly, truly sorry for the accident, which cost your friend his life. I sincerely hope that the Koros places you in an emanation in which you can find him again. What happened? Or it's all the record's fault? No, tell me, Jakob. I want to know the details of what happened. We thought he had the record. We confronted him to get it back. He tried to run. He was hit by a car. He was killed on the spot. It was more than 3 years ago, but I still think about it every day. Once again, I'm so sorry for what happened. Let's hope the record gives him back to me. Jakob lowers his head in agreement, then returns to his place at the end of the room, near the door. Eva checks her watch. Right, it's almost time. I'm going to have to get ready to host the council. Jakob will accompany you to the prayer room. Given the somewhat strange circumstances of your presence here, you will hear the Koros at the very end of the ceremony. It's been 13 years since we had a new inductee in our brotherhood. I hope you will be able to respect our rights. I'm counting on your sense of decency and on your discretion. Nod. Very well. I thank you in advance. You have a new inductee? Is there somebody coming to join us? But not me, because I refuse. Mr. Novak, if you would accompany our guest to the prayer room. Eva picks up the record and her notes and leaves the room. Jakob and I follow her out. Well, I guess this is a good spot to leave here with these unclothed women. But we will need to listen to there's one more chapter left. We need to listen to the record. We need to get Ulysse back. We need to stop this crazy lady. But that'll be it for this episode. So thanks for joining me. Hope you enjoyed it, and hope to see you again next time.